Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining this discussion on elevating the political power of women of color. My name is Kaylin McBride. I'm a staffer for Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, and I am so thrilled to be today's moderator for the Black Woman Best interview series hosted by the impactful Congressional Caucus on Black Women and Girls. So a little bit of background, the Congressional Caucus of Black Women and Girls is the first congressional caucus that focuses specifically on the needs of Black women and girls everywhere. Black women and girls on the daily face insurmountable barriers that prevent us from thriving as our best and our authentic selves. The Congressional Caucus on Black Women and Girls was founded to develop public policy, eliminate barriers, and create opportunities to advance the progress of Black women and girls. Today, we will hear from one of the co-chairs of the Congressional Caucus of Black Women and Girls, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, and the president and founder of She the People, Aimee Allison. So, the participant background. Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman is serving her 5th term in the United States House of Representatives, the continuation of her career in public service and advocating for the needs of New Jersey families and the equitable treatment of all people. The Congresswoman is the first Black woman to represent New Jersey in Congress, and Watson Coleman is a member of the Appropriations Committee. Aimee Allison is a writer, democratic innovator, and a visionary champion of racial and gender justice. She is the founder and president of She the People, the nation's leading organization dedicated to an America redefined and inspired by women of color. Renowned for her national efforts to build an inclusive, multiracial coalitions, Allison organized and moderated the nation's first presidential forum for women of color, attended by presidential candidates and more than 1,000 women from across the country, garnering major national press. So congratulations to you both, and I'm so happy to have you on. So the first question, and this is for you, Ms. Aimee Allison. So can you please explain the justice agenda and how can we make an adequate measure to act upon it?
The justice agenda. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an incredible honor to be with you, Congresswoman, to be with you, Caitlin. The agenda for Black women and girls should be America's agenda. I mean, you think about the way that women of colors intersect with multiple identities, and the thinking about a Black women and girls agenda really is the innovation, the democratic innovation, the justice innovation that was brought for many decades, from Black women to the broader community. Thinking beyond our just one community and bringing lived experience into discussions about what the country needs to prioritize and what policy needs to be developed. Black women are closest to the pain, so we're closest to the solutions. And we know that when women of color lead with progressive values, we build policy, we interpret data, we craft strategy, we represent constituents by baking equity into the very foundation of everything we build. I always think like someone like Professor Cornel West said, justice is what love looks like in public. And that is the agenda. All the policy that we talk about in a justice agenda is an expression of love for our own community and others. And I think when we're successful, neighborhoods, communities, states, the country is stronger and a healthier whole. That's the goal.
Absolutely. So how can we ensure that solution-driven policies effectively help Black women and the Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman?
Well, thanks, Kaylin, and I'm really proud of your being our moderator here. And Aimee, thank you for joining us. I'm glad to have this conversation today. The Congressional Caucus on Black Women and Girls is just about Black women and girls and the absence or the underutilization of policies, thought, and legislation that particularly impacted us, that if addressed properly, will elevate the conditions of everyone. Everyone similarly situated, and those who are already wealthy will stay wealthy. Is that right, Aimee? And
That's right.
our purpose in being is to ensure that we look at barriers, obstruction, opportunity, and challenges that face us, that impact and impede our ability to move forward either economically, socially, educationally, professionally, or even in the criminal justice platform. We look at those things and how they impact us. And we recognize that if we can eliminate the artificial barriers, those are the things that are just put in place to stop somebody from moving from one place to another. They don't have any intrinsic value to the situation. They just are exactly what we say, barriers. But if we eliminate those barriers, if we design and deign policies, procedures, application of resources that get to those who are most impacted by those barriers, which are Black women, then everybody benefits. So if we equalize opportunity and eliminate discrimination on any level, and decide that, you know, we're leveling the playing field, then everybody gets to be elevated and protected. And so at the core of the Congressional Caucus of Black Women and Girls was to elevate those issues that we're not hearing enough about, or to elevate those issues which were coming to us from the community saying, hey, what about this? What about mental health issues? What about maternal disparities in maternal health issues? What about fibroid issues that impact Black women differently? What about the Crown Act and how we wear our hair and whether or not we have access to jobs and public accommodations and things of that nature? Black Women Best, which is sort of an economic approach, I call it a social economic approach. It kind of looks at all of those things that impact our quality of life and how Black women are treated in those realms, and then work towards eliminating and elevating our position, our consideration, our importance, our dignity, and our opportunity in each of those realms.
Absolutely. So working off of the Justice Agenda and the Black Woman Best report, how can we continue to push policies and an agenda that benefits everyone?
I'll yield to you first, Aimee.
No, first of all, I really appreciate that. And I think, Congresswoman, I think we saw each other at the Congressional Black Caucus event a few months back. I was moderating a Shirley Chisholm event with my friend and sort of partner here in Oakland, California, Representative Barbara Lee. And on that stage, we talked about that legacy from Shirley Chisholm and her historic run for president to here. I mean, Black women have only had access to our full citizenship rights for about 60 years. And that's remarkable, that the role that we've played in advancing a justice agenda. I think part of what our challenge is now is we're experts on the social economic, that we know what the bread and butter issues for Americans face and what the solutions are. But we also have something to say about foreign policy. We have something to say about the green economy. We have something to say about, we have expertise. We're talking about a group of people who are the most highly educated group of Americans, who have leaned so far into public service, into organizing, into voting as one of the highest vote turnout groups, that we are uniquely positioned to advance a justice agenda. But we have to do something different, which is to change the political culture to allow more of us to be in positions of leadership. To join the Congresswoman, we need more Black women in Congress. We have no Black women in the US Senate. And given the role that we have played, that is a travesty, and we have to correct that. We are underrepresented at every level, including state legislatures and city councils and school boards. And you can see the way that the culture wars that are being fought to have Black women in the center of the attacks that try to deny our education, our history, our personhood. And those are the kinds of issues that we need Black women to bring up those issues. It's funny, because I did a conversation with Congresswoman Barbara Lee and the first Black woman in the U.S. Senate, Ambassador Carol Moseley Braun. And back then, in 1992, when she took office, she said no one was talking about the issues that face Black women's health, and she was bringing those up. So it's still, there's a lot that we can bring in terms of the quality of the national conversation and focus on funding, focus on policy, ideas, and bringing a lot of us along. We've got to change leadership. So I will just say, Jesse Jackson had a famous phrase. He said, "You can try to convince the people who are in power now, or you can get new leaders." And I am of, and I know She the People's been dedicated to this. Is we gotta help to create both an expectation and a celebration and a concrete support for Black women who want to lead at every level. Because what I found in my work across the country is we have amazing ideas, and we come ready to organize. We're tied deeply to movement, and we can coalesce multiracial voting coalitions so that people have the political and also the concrete backing to go and implement their agenda. So that's where I see our next steps to seeing justice be the law of the land in this country.
Well, I certainly agree with every bit of that. I mean, we need more of us on every level. As a result of having 28 Black women in Congress right now, we may still be discussing some of these issues, but we're also having some influence and putting some resources into looking at how to address some of those issues, whether or not it's maternal health, healthy moms, access to healthcare, supporting education, supporting families, even the child tax credit issues that impact us particularly, and therefore even the greater populace. We get to talk about those issues. We get to elevate them. In Congress, we also get to fight for resources that go to eliminating or helping or whatever you want to call it. Not only the actual money that goes out for the service, but even in the determinations what the service should be and what the research should look like and who should be doing the research. So just being engaged in every level. And of course, that is the truth. We're not present to the extent that we have the capacity to be present. And we need to be stronger and bolder and more collaborative in supporting one another, even if it's me supporting Barbara Lee in California or Barbara Lee supporting Bonnie in New Jersey. We need to put our nickels behind our knuckles, so to speak. The other thing that I think that you touched upon it a bit, it's conversations like this that'll get to a broader audience, that kind of alert you to what's going on, what you can pay attention to, maybe what you're interested in, find out some additional information. I was meeting with my sorority today in the State House in New Jersey, and I was saying, I said, one thing we need to do is we need to get out of our silos. We do talk, we share the same concerns as Black women in any other sort of location, vocation, profession, whatever, education, whatever. But we don't necessarily get to talk to one another. And we need to develop a greater pipeline to share information, to get on the same page, to examine strategies, because we're at a point right now where we really need to be looking at preserving and protecting our autonomy over our bodies, our prominence in our communities, our self-governance. All these are being threatened. How our kids are being educated, what is included in the education curriculum, our whole access to being safely protected in our communities by law enforcement. It's just a wide range. And of course, I mean, we're impacted to a greater degree if we're urban and Black as it relates to the climate and how we're putting resources into making our living conditions healthier for us. So there's not any issue that isn't ours. And it's good that we talk among one another, but we need to be talking through one another to other venues as well. We need to be building up, I believe, a critical mass right now around an agenda that it speaks to fairness and dignity and respect and protection and love, and what we will not accept. And so we see state by state things that are happening that are in opposition to what we believe in. You see what's happening in Florida, you see what's happening in Mississippi, Georgia, and Tennessee and other states, from attacking your autonomy over your body to your right to vote or your right to be self-governed. All of those things impact us. And we know that when they institute these changes and these new institutions, we're the ones that come under a more critical light than anybody else. And so I've been telling folks, they can come after me, but they're coming after you next. So now's the time that we ought to be coalescing with not only each other through our various groups, but with our allies. And Black Women Best, I know people kind of react to it being Black Women Best. It's really about a fairness agenda. And it's really about elevating all who are in need and who are capable and who are deserving. And I believe in this country that no family and no child, no anybody should live beneath a certain floor. That we in this country, this very wealthy country, must have minimum standards that are livable for people that we work to improve. And we've kind of lost our way. But put it in the hands of Black women, you put it on our agendas, and collectively, we will show you what we can do.
And I could not agree more. When you think back to the 250 years since the founding of this country, we're actually coming up on the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And we understand that the people who founded this country still enslaved Black women and called us 3/5 of a person, along with Indigenous people, denied our humanity in this experiment of democracy. And yet, Black women have held this democratic faith and this belief, despite what's happening now, as you were saying, Congresswoman, that we can have justice and dignity and humanity for people. I think what this moment is calling for is to reject the divisiveness that we have seen coming from people in this country who believe that they would choose, white supremacy over democracy. And we are saying white supremacy is not going to get the last word. Patriarchy is not going to get the last word. That women of color have a very important, powerful role to play in this moment. And we have to be ready for what this looks like. As you were saying, the attacks come to Black women first. We saw since 2018 some historic moves in terms of Black women having a rightful place and representation with our Vice President, Kamala Harris, in the White House. We have a Black woman Supreme Court Justice, the first time in history. We have Black women in districts in Congress that have never been represented by Black women before, let alone a woman. So that there's been some advancement, but the counterbalance is this kind of attack and pushback and backlash that we're experiencing now. So, when we travel, when She the People has done most recently a 10-state listening session with women of color. And we've assembled women of color, Black, Latina, Asian American, and Indigenous women. And when we listened to women of color, it's like our democracy can be built on compassion and abundance. We can reject this zero-sum kind of politics in which communities are pitted against one another, and we can build very powerful multiracial coalitions. Black women, stretching all the way back to Shirley Chisholm, who founded in New York the first Caucus that was a multiracial caucus in the state legislature in New York. We can and we should build these multiracial coalitions. The other thing I just want to say is that, like, Black women we need to make sure that we have a broad and expansive circle in the kind of in the world of Black women. So we include people of, Muslims that are Black. A third of Muslims in this country are Black women. Afro-Latinas, a Spanish speaker, people who are from, places like Peru or Dominican Republic in the circle of Black women, trans women. So the expansive acceptance and cohesion of who Black women are, I think in this moment, shores us up and strengthens us as we build community across identity with other groups. And that's the potential of the moment. And we've got to be ready to be able to respond with power and clarity at a moment where the attacks are coming up to a fever pitch.
You know what? I couldn't agree more with everything you said. I also take note of the fact that Black women, when they put their minds to changing something, we don't get hung up on who the leader has to be. We figure out, what does the resource have to look like? What does that coalition have to look like? And so there are times when we see the coming together, the gathering of women, and it's not just one person at the top of the pyramid. It's women from different walks of life, whether that they're clergy, they're nonprofit, they're corporate. I mean, you see women from the corporate world that you've never seen before at levels, So we're all over the place. But the thing that we share is the fact that we are Black and we are women. And that intersection of our race and our sex has profound implications for how this society addresses us and worries about us. And I always want people, people are so concerned about white supremacy and the ultra right wing, and what's happening with them. And I tell them, I say, they're getting deeper in their hatefulness, but they're not getting broader. But they will get broader if we don't push back against it. And the way we push back against it is like, for instance, what you said, it's not just Afro-Black women. It's Black women coming from South America, it's Black women coming from Africa, it's Black women coming from Muslim countries. We are a multiplicity of racial and ethnic backgrounds, but we're reacted to in the same way by this society. So we need to understand that whoever we are, we're the other as far as white supremacists are concerned. And being the other, we're the target. But at the end of the day, we represent the majority. And if those numbers can work, if we can find our way to be communicating on a regular basis and building up strength and encouragement and confidence in who we are collectively and individually, ain't no stopping us. Ain't no stopping us now from protecting this democracy.
That's what I'm talking about. Because we have to have that faith. And it's so beautiful when I hear that democratic faith. I've never been so overwhelmed and inspired by those who still hold the vision of a full democracy, despite what's happening now and the forces that have especially been emboldened, when Trump was in the White House and now. I mean, it's never about one person. There's a whole cadre of people who are trying to dismantle at the state level our right to vote. So in 2024, Black women are at the center of the bullseye, as you were mentioning, around voting rights. And some of our gains are under attack. So these are the things that we face. But like as Black women, we also have to hold the faith for that we can build power. I'm interested in power. I'm not interested in power over, but I'm interested in the kind of power that we can build in this moment that can overcome the structural disadvantages that we've had. And that's a conversation around, people power. It's a conversation about building solidarity across race. Solidarity is like a word that I think was popular in the 70s, but it really means having a heart for our own and others and building power across communities and identities in order to win elections and to win our vision of government. So I think we have in the year ahead, the challenge of bringing together Black women and Black young, it's like Black women and girls, because you have this next generation of young women. They are ready. I mean, the 16-year-olds I see that are testifying in front of school boards in Florida, for example. My goodness. I mean, I could run a congressional campaign for those young women right now. They're just so amazing. So we do have a lot to look forward to, and a lot that we can tap in terms of these battles that are coming up in the next few months.
And the young people need to see that while we recognize we have challenges, and very immense and very serious challenges right now, there's nothing depressed about us. We're inspired. We're inspired because we want to make space for them and their leadership. And so we don't give up, and we don't give in, and we just find our way through and around whatever the obstacle might be. They need to have confidence that they can depend upon our being in that space for them. I have a 9-year-old granddaughter, and I think of her every day when I'm down there in Washington, or even up here in New Jersey, working on just connecting, figuring out where to go next, what to do next. I don't want her to have less opportunity than I had. I want her to have more opportunity. I want her to be able to blossom, to feel good about who she is, and what she can do, and what she wants to do, and what she will be able to do. And if we don't show up in a big way, Black women, then we may be letting people get away with placing a damper on those expectations for that younger generation. I'm really excited I have somebody like Kaylin that works on my staff. She is young. She is motivated on so many different levels. She, at one point in her life, she's going to probably be in the media world, and to get into the media world by having had the kind of firsthand experiences in the policy world. I mean, she could be another Joy Reid easily. Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
And I think we might represent even generations, ourselves, this conversation around, and it's important for no matter where we are, in terms of our age and career trajectories, to step into that very proud, powerful justice tradition that Black women innovated, we have fought for, we have worked for, and we've held that vision on behalf of Americans, all Americans. So it's very exciting to see that next generation, Kaylin. Remember, you can call on me first, but also you can call on a lot of us to help support you as you live into why you were born, why you're here, and what you want to do. So it's exciting.
Oh, well, thank you both. And to overcome and be inspired are wonderful takeaways. And, I feel fortunate to have been in this conversation and believe that both of your work is helping us all push forward. And I want to thank the Congresswoman and the president and founder of She the People, Aimee Allison, for your thoughts and your words of wisdom. You can find more on Aimee Allison's She the People by visiting shethepeople.org, and you can read more on the Congressional Caucus on Black women and girls by visiting watsoncoleman.house.gov. You can also read the Black Woman Best Legislative Agenda, a report by the Congressional Caucus on Black women and girls by visiting watsoncoleman.house.gov. Thank you both again, and thank you everyone for watching. I hope that you were all able to make use of this conversation today and apply these frameworks moving forward. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you all have a great day.
Hey, Aimee, I really appreciate this conversation that we've had today. I hope we have many more.
Yes.
I think that there's some other probably subject matters we could tackle together. And thank you. I so appreciate your work. And Kaylin, I thank you for facilitating our conversation.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Have a great day.
Whatever. I'm here for you, whatever.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.